Hi, this is Anna, and this is BookSpotting. So I'm sorry I've been away for quite a while. I was hoping that I would do these a little bit more often, like at least a couple of them a month, but life and health just gets in the way, and so I'm just doing them when I can, and this is some time that I had. So I thought I would start something new for me, for this channel. So there's this challenge, this reading challenge has been going on for 5 years called the Read Harder Challenge, and it's put out by the website BookRiot. And like I said, they've been doing it for 5 years, and each year they come up with 24 prompts. Basically just to get people to kind of go out of their comfort zone for their reading, so they're not just kind of reading the same thing. Like if you're into mysteries, you just read mysteries, and if you're into graphic novels, you only read graphic novels. It's a way of getting you to go outside of what you usually read, but still it's up to you what you pick. I mean, there's no like guided list. It doesn't say, okay, you should read these 24 books in a year. It's basically just prompts, and then you pick your own book. And again, no one's keeping track. It's just for your own fun. And all of us, book geeks, that's the kind of thing we like. And some of the books can fulfill more than one prompt, so you might end up reading less than 24 books, or maybe you just pick individual ones. I tried to do it last year. I didn't get very far. I found out about it at the beginning of the year, and then I basically just completely forgot about it and just was reading all these other things. And then I decided to get back into it probably by the end of the year, and I was trying to cram, and it just didn't really work. So I think I did like maybe 6 or 7 of the prompts. So I decided to start again this year, anew, fresh, with a new prompt. And so the prompts look like this. So on the website, there is this handy dandy PDF that you can download and print out yourself, or just fill out in your own computer, where you can keep track of what you've been reading. I'll have the link to the BookRiot website for this particular challenge in the description of the video. And so there's all sorts of things. There's things like wow, that's a tough word. Epistolary novel or collection of letters, things like a book by a journalist or about journalism, a book in which an animal or inanimate object is a point of view character, a business book, a book written in prison. You get the idea. It's all sort of like unusual kind of prompts. And so I thought that I would try to do monthly updates of what I've been reading for this challenge so far. And January has been a bit slower than usual for other kinds of reading. And so I actually read quite a few books for this challenge. Because basically it's 24, and so 24 for the year. So if you read 2 each month, that's pretty good. So, excuse me, just having to deal over here with something. Excuse me. And just little technical issues. And so usually you would read like 2 a month, but I just happened to read a couple more this month, and I thought I'd talk about them. So I'll have them throughout the year. This will be number 1 of the Read Harder Challenge 2019 challenge. So before I keep on droning on about other things, I'm going to tell you a couple of the books that I read. So first one I'll show you is the one that fulfills a book of manga. And I chose My Brother's Husband by, and I'm sure I'll murder the name, Gengoro Tagame, maybe. And he is this gentleman right here. And he has been doing lots and lots of manga for a long time. And this marks, according to the back here, the first title that he's done that's all ages. And I will say it's definitely all ages. I read it, and then my 6-year-old saw it and was asking me, oh, can I read it? Can I read it? Can I read it? And I was a little bit unsure, but then once I actually read it, I was like, that's fine. There's nothing here that is inappropriate for a kid. As long as your kid has, can read enough to get through it, then it's fine. And so My Brother's Husband is a very touching book, sometimes very sad, and it's about this gentleman right here, and his name is Iachi, and this is his daughter, Kana, and this is Mike Flanagan, who is Canadian, and he is the brother, he is the husband of Yashi's brother, therefore my brother's husband. And so it's really nice. It has some great imagery right away from beginning, and show you a couple more. When they first meet, when the brother's husband shows up from Canada for a visit, there is a somewhat startled reception by Yashi, and then a couple of funny scenes, like when Mike Flanagan, the uncle, is staying with them, and Kana is fascinated by him because he's very hairy. And so when he is changing, she's fascinated by all the hairiness on his chest. And there's a scene here where Yashi is coming to grips with why it is that he feels so uncomfortable being around this gay man, his gay brother's husband. And so the reason why this is not really a spoiler, because it's kind of like right away from the beginning, the reason why you don't see Yashi's brother is because he's passed away, unfortunately. And so he had left Japan about 10 years back and hadn't really stayed in touch with his family back home, including his twin brother, Yashi, and Ryoji is the name of the dead brother. And they hadn't really stayed in touch. And then he already knew that he was gay before he left Japan, but Yashi never really discussed it too much with him. And then he went and married himself a Canadian who Yashi had never met. And then he comes to visit, and he's coming basically to have a tour of Japan as experienced by his dead husband. All the things that he had told him about, and he just wants to experience it. And he's just so full of warmth, Mike Flanagan. He's just so warm and caring and just this amazing person, and basically changes Yashi's sort of closed-mindedness about what it is to be gay and what does it mean. And Kana just loves him, and it's a really beautiful story. Like, I thought, really well told, of not only a family coming to accept, one of their own members, but also at the same time seeing how overall society can react to such a person. Because Kana, the little girl, she's very excited about introducing her uncle to some of her friends, and things don't quite go as they were planned. So I highly recommend My Brother's Husband. Just wonderful, wonderful book. And if you've never read manga, really great introduction to it. It's not like very superhero-y. Well, it's not superhero at all. And sorry, I was distracted by a cat that was walking by. But yeah, so it's a really great book, really recommend it, whether you're doing the challenge or you're just looking for a new title of manga to read. And as I'm sure most of you know, the reason I'm showing it like this is manga, you open it the other way than how it is in the West. And also while you're reading it, you also read it from right to left. So fantastic book. The other book that I did this month to fulfill the Read Harder Challenge was a humor book. Now, I have a couple of favorite humor writers, and of course, the perennial favorite, at least for me, for the last, I'd say 15 years or so, is David Sedaris. I love David Sedaris. I've read most everything that he's done. I haven't always loved everything that he's done, but he's great. So I picked up Calypso, which is his latest book. Now, notwithstanding the cover, which is kind of shit, it's not really a good cover. I don't know what the cover is in the US. I'm not sure if it's the same, but the UK cover, this is not the best cover ever. It's all right. It doesn't matter. It's what's inside. But I thought the dust jacket copy was less than... They tried to warn you, but yet at the same time, they didn't really fulfill it. Because it says, if you've ever laughed your way through David Sedaris' cheerfully misanthropic stories, you might think you know what you're getting with Calypso, you'd be wrong. They're right about that. They're very right. But then at the end it says, this is beach reading for people who detest beaches, required reading for those who loathe small talk and love a good tumor joke. That's true about the tumor joke. Calypso is simultaneously Sedaris' darkest and warmest book yet, and it just might be his very best. No. I don't think it's very best. I definitely don't think is, as it says quite a few times all over the place, that it's particularly funny. I think this is a good book. I think it's a good book of personal essays about someone's life and someone's family, and as that, it works. It's brutal at times, it's incredibly personal, and yeah, it's great. But there's not a lot of funny, I gotta say. The one essay that particularly stood out that wasn't really very funny at all was The Spirit World, where Sedaris does sort of a follow-up to the death of his sister Tiffany. Tiffany died in tragic circumstances, and he did a piece about her earlier, and then he did this follow-up piece, and I just thought the tone of it was just really did not work for me, and it just was not good. Having said that, he has some fantastic pieces in here. He has a piece called Stepping Out. Let me see. Stepping Out is about getting a Fitbit and how one can get completely obsessed with one's steps. So much so that he started walking, crazy amount of miles just so that he could get the little reward. They're not stickers. I don't even know, like emojis, whatever it is, little reward thing that you get on a Fitbit because of how many miles he's done. And that's, to me, is classic Sedaris, just at his best. The perfect fit about him and his sister Amy Sedaris going to Tokyo and buying the most ridiculous clothes in the world that also happen to be super expensive. Clothes that, the shirts have 3 arms and the pants waist might be right under one's nipples. Again, just hilarious. Like, really good, great stuff. And then the title story, Calypso, is just ridiculously good. I don't want to give too much away, but it involves a snapping turtle and a non-cancerous tumor. And I know that's just so bizarre, but it's good. It's good. It's funny. It's like just fantastic. And another one that I'd highlight would be, and while you're up there, check on my prostate. And again, just like really funny, fantastic stories. But it is not, I would say, a funny book. It has funny moments. It has funny stories. But a lot of them are very sort of grim and dark and just, yeah, I don't know if they're quite up to par with his past work. If you've never read Sedaris, and where have you been? I would very much recommend Me Talk Pretty One Day. This is just actually laugh out loud funny. This is not one of those, oh yeah, you might like it, you might not. No, you're gonna love this. I guarantee you're gonna love this. You are. I remember reading this while riding the subway, commuting to a job from long ago, when I first heard about it, and just laughing to myself, while in the train. And I'm sure some people occasionally wondering what is wrong with this girl, and I should probably step away from her a little bit. But really, just fantastic collection of stories. I mean, it's been a while since I read it, but there's not a wrong one on the bunch. They're just really, really good. So Calypso had its moments, but this one is the one to go for. If you wanted to read a Sedaris book because you never read one, or you wanted to fulfill it if you're going to do the challenge. And by the way, if anybody hadn't heard of the challenge and now has heard of it and wants to do it as well, please let me know in the comments and tell me some of the things you're going to read, or what you think of it, just anything really. So the next book that I read for the challenge was the one that fulfilled a comic by an LGBTQI, sorry, LGBTQIA author, and that is Nimona. Oh, Nimona, by Noelle Stevenson. And this started out as a webcomic quite a few years back. And I can't say how much I love this. This was just so, everything you want in a graphic novel. Everything, just perfect from beginning till end. Just quirky characters, writing, all sorts of silly anachronisms, just fantastic. So just some of the imagery from, don't know if that's close up. Hopefully you can see some of it. This is where the Lord, what is his name? Lord Blackheart. So Lord Blackheart, just to give a little bit of context for the story, Lord Blackheart is the archenemy of Sir Ambrosius Goldenloin. That's right, you heard that right, Goldenloin. And they are archenemies, and this is part of the institution of law enforcement and heroics, who put out Sir Ambrosius Goldenloin as the quite literal golden boy of their cache of heroes. And and Lord Blackheart has been tasked with being his arch enemy and keeps on attacking things and doing evil deeds. But is he? Is he really evil? And Nimona shows up one day and just says, "Hey, I want to be your sidekick." And Lord Blackheart's like, "I do not need a sidekick. I'm fine. I am smart. I am brave. I got all sorts of scientific knowledge. I'm good." But then Nimona reveals that she's a shapeshifter. Shapeshifters are very handy when you're fighting other knights and such. So, yeah, he takes her on. And then they have like this great scene over here where they're playing Monopoly. And so this world it's a medieval world, but it's a medieval world, you know, with Monopoly and with science experiments and with technology. So it's a bit of a mixed up little world, and it's fantastic. And yeah, she can turn into any live creature. So she can turn into any person or any animal, anything at all, as long as it is alive. And you can see that her in great form in later on. She turns into a giant dragon. She does that a couple of times. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And just to show you another thing, another aspect of the mixed up world, they both go, her dressed up as a little boy and him with a beard as his disguise, a big beard. They go to the Science Expo and to find out all the latest technology. So it's quite fun and silly, and actually deep at times. And it just brings into question who is who. Like, are bad guys always bad guys? Are good guys always good guys? Are there darker things going on behind the scenes? And that, well, quite literally, people are not what they seem. And yeah, this is beautiful, amazing. And Noelle Stevenson is just fantastic. I didn't know this before reading this, but so not only did she write this, she's also a co-writer of Lumberjanes, which is a series of graphic novels. And most fun, she is the current creator, showrunner, and producer of the new She-Ra on Netflix, the cartoon. So definitely look out for her. If you like her, I would also recommend Kate Beaton, which is this is just one of her books, Step Aside Pups, a Hark, a Vagrant Collection. This also started out on the web, and just Noelle Stevenson's style just reminded me a lot of Kate Beaton's. Kate Beaton does pretty much historical little things. So just fantastic, absurd stories, either based on history or based on literature. She has a lot of stuff based on literature. I remember like a couple of Jane Austen things, and they're just so funny, so fantastic. So I'd really recommend Kate Beaton as well. Although I don't think it would fulfill this particular prompt because I don't think she's an LGBTQIA creator, but just if you're looking for something fun to read, this is a great book. And then the final one that I did for this challenge was a children's or middle grade book, not young adult, that has won a diversity award since 2009. So I actually had to do some research on this, trying to first of all find diversity awards and then additionally find one since 2009. And I stumbled upon this one here. And it is Malala's Magic Pencil by Malala. I don't know how to say her last name. It's by Malala. So I think everyone knows Malala. She's won the Nobel Peace Prize a few years back. She's a young activist and she's fantastic. So I really like the illustrations here. The main premise of this book is that she sees a cartoon when she's little, TV show, about a boy who had a magic pencil. And whatever he wanted, he would just draw and he would get it. And so she imagines that she too could have a magic pencil and what kind of things she would do. And one of the things here, she'd get her mother some beautiful dresses. She would construct better buildings, and she would make her brothers a real ball rather than the ball that they had, which was an old sock stuffed with rubbish. So just fantastic drawings here. There's one here. I knew then that if I had the magic pencil, I would use it to draw a better world, a peaceful world. And here's some of what she would say and do. But then, of course, things start going wrong in her country, and the Taliban invades, and they start restricting children, particularly girls, from going to school. And this is basically when she realizes that she can't really go to school anymore, or she's one of the few children that's going to school. But she finds a voice. She starts writing for the BBC, starts talking about the conditions for girls and for children in general in schools in Afghanistan. And then she's targeted, as most people know, by the Taliban. And so the rest of the book tells about that. I thought this book was really good. I enjoyed the story. It was a nice way of putting it, a nice way of making it more accessible to children. My only sort of issue with it was I think they were so afraid of scaring children about what happened to Malala that they made it a little too vague. Like, this is the page about, my voice became so powerful that dangerous men tried to silence me, but they failed. And as you see, black page, and then you can see here, I only noticed after I read it like the third time that this is her in a hospital gown with a hospital bracelet, and then the next page saying, and now my voice is louder than ever. And so I get it. I get that they didn't want to scare kids, but at the same time, I thought this was a little bit too vague. It does mention a little bit more about the attack at the end. There's a great bit at the end where there's a letter from Malala to the reader, and then there's about the writer over here. So it says a little bit more. It just says, Malala was targeted by the Taliban and attacked as she was returning home from school. I just thought that this picture here was just a little bit too vague, and it was terrible what happened to her. And I don't think that you should keep these things from children. I'm not saying to have some sort of graphic imagery of what had happened to her, but I think this is a little bit too kind of wishy-washy and not sort of showing the terribleness, injustice that was done to her. Still, I'd very much recommend it. It's a great book. It's a beautiful book. And it's Malala. How can you not like anything by Malala? So that's my first update of my Read Harder challenge for this year. I hope you'll join me in doing the challenge. And if you have any, I pretty much have all the books that I'm going to read for the year, as you can see. I don't know if you can see. Like, most of them I already have in pencil, and as I read them, I copy them over in blue so I can keep track. But if you look over the list and there are some just amazing books that you think maybe I'd like, please feel free to make a comment in the comment section. And yeah, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed my first update of this year's Read Harder Challenge. And this is Anna, and it's been BookSpotting. Talk to you soon.